So in the interest of time, let's just kick it off, and let me say hi and very warm welcome to what's the first in hopefully a series of interesting sessions where we're going to be talking about how artificial intelligence and IPRally in particular can sort of contribute to solving some of the problems that we all face in our everyday lives. AI is used in every aspect of our lives nowadays, and we're now getting to a point where that is also true for patent research and some of the patent processes that we're all struggling with. So great to see so many of you, even if I don't see you per se. It's good to see that some of you are still dropping in here as well. So the first session today, we had a very long laundry list of things that we intended to cover. I saw that in the invitation, and hopefully we're not over-promising, but we're not going to focus on all of it. The main thing we're going to be talking about is how you can have a structured approach to patentability searching and the impact that this will have on multiple things in your processes if it's done properly. So a bit of housekeeping, you're all muted as well. So feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. I will save them for the end if we have time. And if we don't have time, we will make sure we get back to you and answer your questions if you just type them in. So let's get started and see how far we can take this in 45 minutes. So what you're looking at now is a better version of me. It's from my wedding last year. So 1 year older, a bit more gray hair. But I am, my name is Andreas. I am the Chief Commercial Officer for IPRally. I have been with IPRally in this role for about 18 months now. Time flies when we're having fun. I'm based in Stockholm, Sweden, and I manage a team by now that is reaching from India to Chicago. So we're expanding very quickly, and that's what I've been focusing on since I joined as well. Really building out a commercial function and a go-to-market that will allow us to spread the gospel of what we're trying to do. So before I joined IPRally, I've been in this industry for 16, 17, 18 years. I lose track, but I spent a lot of time with Thomson Reuters, which became Clarivate, and also Durbin and PatSnap. That I've been leading teams in different shapes and forms and solving real problems for our clients. And I think that's quite interesting because what we've done with IPRally is very different, and it's got the potential to disrupt a lot of the status quo that's been in this industry for a long time. And that's really what excites me about this whole thing. So one of the things I have been doing for a very long time in this role, these roles, I should say, is to work with companies on patent searching in particular and establishing patentability programs. So whether they're based on software or if it's based on outsourced searches, that can depend. But the bottom line is that if you do it properly, if you establish a program like this, you will see positive effects to a lesser or greater extent, depending on your processes and how well you execute on it. But my experience is that it's really impactful if we do that. So let's jump into and have a quick look at the agenda. So what we're going to be talking about today is, well, we've done the introduction. There's going to be a little bit more introduction to the company as well, company IPRally and also the platform IPRally. But then we're going to jump in and talk about patentability searching and what a systematic approach to patentability searching really is. And we're going to spend half the time doing that, and then half the time we're going to go in and actually do some practical live searches. So I'm a bit of a daredevil. It's always risky to run something like this and try to do something live, but let's give it a go and see how well it works. So yeah, that's really it, and hopefully it's going to be obvious what the gains can be if you have a structured approach to patentability from that. So if we look at IPRally technologies, very quickly, you can read all the information on the slide, so I'm not going to go through all of it. But what IPRally technologies is essentially a company that was founded in Helsinki, Finland, about 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago. and with the intent to solve a lot of the problems that we're all facing. Like I said previously, time wasted, efficiency problems, cost, risk involved in the patent processes that we're working with. And it was founded by a European patent attorney. The product is a brainchild of a European patent attorney that was working for 15 years as a patent attorney. And one of the things he found frustrating was the fact that, he couldn't find the time to do proper prior art searching or patentability searching, and he kept getting obvious office actions back, and he thought there must be a better way of doing it. So it links very nicely into what we're going to be talking about here today. Product has been on the market since 2019, and it's grown very, very quickly. We're seed funded twice, actually, and we're growing with employees as well. And we're getting some good recognitions and some nice accolades with that as well. And whoever we work with, we tend to solve similar problems, but from different angles. We work with corporations, which is the main part, operating companies primarily, and then the ecosystem around them. So law firms, PTOs, and search firms. That's really our entire suite of clients. So if you look at what IPRally is, that is a product. That is a SaaS product that is allowing you to essentially utilize artificial intelligence, I think for the first time, without having to sacrifice a lot of the things you're used to be able to do. It's a unique way of searching for, processing, and finding and reviewing patents that is based on deep learning, machine learning, essentially. So it allows you to search for technology completely independent of keywords and Boolean structures that you've done in the past, and it allows you to review the data very, very quickly as well. It's got a couple of different ways of helping you with that. So it's a productivity tool for the most part, and it's there to help you with to either do things more efficiently or do things you've sacrificed doing previously because you haven't been able to. So essentially, like I said, it's a technology search tool. So you're able to obviously search and find technical information in it. But like I said, you're also able to do most of the things you want to be able to do when you review patents. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but you obviously want to search and assess the information once you get it. You want to process it in different ways, categorize it, make sure it's fitting with what it is that you're trying to achieve. You may want to monitor technology, and you certainly want to share and collaborate within the platform as well. So all of that, which is what you would expect from a patent research tool, is in IPRally. And there's also an element of interoperability that we think is really important. So we don't do everything. We don't do chemical structure searching or analytics or a number of different things. We're a technology-based search tool. So we're proactively working with interoperability with tools that do have those capabilities, so that you as a customer don't really have to focus too much on trying to squeeze something out of IPRally that it isn't, essentially. So what is unique about what we do, and what's our reason for doing this? IPRally is essentially trying to bridge the gap between the old ways of doing things and the new ways of doing things. And what I mean by that is essentially the old ways and the way that things have been done for as long as I've been in this industry, and longer than that as well. It's 98% Boolean based. There are more complicated searches as well, but 98% of it is Boolean based. And the thing with those kind of searches is that they're great if you're an expert. And I know some of you on the call are experts in searching using these techniques. but for the most part, for most people, it's a bit too complicated to master, to be able to do it effectively. But if you do, it's fully explainable, fully controllable. You know exactly why you're getting the result you're getting, and it's completely black and white, right? But it takes time, and there's no artificial intelligence whatsoever. It relies on your intelligence, and your intelligence may be good, but it may also be a little bit biased in some cases. So, pros and cons with Boolean searching. But if you look back, 5-10 years ago, maybe, started seeing a lot more of artificial intelligence coming in. You saw what we call traditional AI, starting with semantic type searching, fuzzy logic type approaches, and linking between different concepts in artificial ways, building out taxonomies and what have you, all the way through to nowadays a bit more intelligent machine learning type approaches. So these approaches are definitely faster. You put something in, you get it back, and it's there. There is some intelligence to it as well in most cases. But the biggest challenge that we see, and what I think makes us unique in how we bridge this gap, is that with these traditional AI tools, it is a black box. You don't actually know why you're getting results back, and you don't. If you get good results, that's great. If you get bad results, not so great. But either way, you don't know why you're getting them back. And if you want to tweak something or change something or interact with it, you can't do that because it doesn't offer any control to you. So Boolean, full of control, time-consuming, difficult, and AI is a little bit faster and more intelligent, but no control whatsoever. And that's where graph AI comes in. So we use something called graph neural networks. We built our solution on that. And graph AI is essentially something that will help you do the things and use artificial intelligence in a very effective way. But it would also give you not 100% control, because it's always a magic with artificial intelligence, but you will get good control. It will be explainable, and it will be intelligent, both intelligent semantically, but also technically. So we'll actually understand what it is that you're trying to search for on a much deeper level than the appearance of a couple of keywords. So final slide about IPRally before we get into patentability. So the way graph neural networks work and the way that we've designed IPRally is to build out a network. We didn't come up with the concept of graph neural networks. They exist. They're used in multiple different industries for different purposes. But it's a unique way and brilliant way to process complicated, complex, and large amounts of data. So what happens is that you break down information into multi-dimensional graphs with vectors that explain the technical concepts of, in our case, of patents. So the way we train this neural network to understand what it is that we wanted to do, and what we wanted to do is essentially to act and think and mimic the behavior of a patent examiner or patent professional. So we train it to do that by the first step, parsing out every single patent that we have in our database into these graphs, in this graph format. So the system will learn how things are connected to each other, what kind of terminology is used in different contexts, how things are interconnected. If there are new terms coming in, it will learn what those terms are and how they're being used. And it will essentially just help with looking at synonyms and everything. So it will see a lot of different descriptions and concepts and different kinds of description of technology. The second thing we do is we train it, like I said, to mimic a patent examiner. So we use citation information primarily, so examination data, positive and negative data sets, train this neural network to make determinations that this concept that you're looking at in this vector is close to this vector, which means that thematically they're very similar. And we will determine how close they have to be by showing it where an examiner, or how an examiner would make that determination, essentially. So that's essentially how it works. And I would pause for questions here, but I'm not sure I have the guts to open it up. But to go into the main topic today, which is about patentability and patentability programs. I tried to come up with a way of describing what I mean by a systematic approach to patentability. And however I did it, it came out cheesy. So apologies in advance, but I essentially looked at the combination of the word systematic and patentability. So I don't have to teach you what patentability is in this context. You know what the things are that need to be fulfilled for a subject matter or patent to be patentable. But essentially, it's systematic. You have a system. You have a clear and coherent body of ideas and principles. It's methodical. It's thorough. It's regular, and it's rule based essentially. If something happens, then this action is taken. That's the systematic approach. And then the patentability is obviously trying to assess through prior art searching and other means what is the patentability of this invention that we have, or parts of the invention that we have. So the systematic approach to patentability is essentially, in my world, an approach where the patentability of an invention is assessed in a programmatic and systematic way. And there are rules and processes and designated people in designated sequences. So that can be big, it can be small, but the thing is that it needs to be systematic. If it's not systematic, it doesn't work. You'll still get benefits if you just do it, regardless of how rule-based it is. But the clearer the structure is, the better the results are going to be, and the easier it is to measure whether it works or not. So when do you assess patentability in processes like this? This is a very, very basic, dumbed down sort of flow chart of idea, invention to patent, if you want to call it that. But I think just to wedge in where I think patentability has a place, it doesn't have to be done by everyone at these steps every single time, but I think it has a place in some of these steps. And usually where, I don't know if you see my cursor, but usually where you see patentability being done is around the IP decision stage or the patent drafting filing stage. You have an idea, you've processed it, and you get to a point where, we're filing a patent for this. Is it patentable? As part of that decision. And that's a little bit too late, in my opinion. So we see a lot of benefits of, and maybe if you broaden the scope from patentability to just doing, general prior art or awareness searching, already in the ideation phase, there are really big benefits to understanding whether something is technically viable, but also if it is subsequently patentable, if that is important to you as a company. So having the right people involved in those steps, if patent engineers need to be part of innovation workshops and do on-the-fly searches, whatever that looks like, I think there is a real case to be made for patentability to be done in the early stages. Definitely as well in the invention disclosure stages, which is obviously when things are a bit more formulated, you want to submit something as an inventor and an R&D engineer, scientist, whatever it may be, type up your invention, submit it, and then you traditionally, what I've seen is that you wait for the IP team to get back to you and tell you about whether that's patentable or not, whether they're proceeding with it. We see more and more companies making it mandatory to actually do a prior art searching and disclose the results of that prior art search in the invention disclosure. So definitely good reasons to do that as well, because it lessens the burden for everyone involved, I think. Evaluation is pretty obvious. That's when you tend to start doing it. Is something viable, not just from a perspective, but also commercially. You know, what do you have to do to protect this natural stage? Then you make a decision whether you want to protect that patent or not, or protect that invention with a patent or not. And if you do, you will draft a patent application or work with someone to draft that patent application. And that's the sort of the final step for running a patentability search, unless we get into invalidation and that kind of discussion. But in this process, I think it's definitely one of the more important parts, where you can go in and run a search based on the claims you drafted, see what the impact is, and make sure you understand what the impact of how you formulate a claim will be with regards to patentability. So, rhetorical question, obviously, are patentability programs necessary? I mean, there's a lot of companies that I've talked to that are hugely successful, doing great, that don't really have a structured approach for it. And you know, you don't really have to do a patentability program, but the ones that do, again, tend to be more successful, in my opinion, and from what I see. And there are numbers that you can use to sort of quantify this as well. And these are just a few of those numbers. There are, you know, a lot of things you can look at, but I find it pretty interesting that on average, about 50, 55, 57% of all applications, depending on the PTO you're looking at, that are being applied for are finally granted. So that means that, you know, between 40 and 50% are not granted for various reasons. Not all of it is down to the, you know, the patentability aspect that we're talking about here, but the reality is some of them are. Some were intended to be, you know, granted patents in the end. And you know, if there's something we can do to increase those numbers, you know, there's a lot to be won, I think. We've also twisted and turned some numbers around office actions, which I think is quite interesting. So we looked at all the average numbers of office actions, or all the office actions in the USPTO by the top 700 law firms in the US, and just looked at how many patents they processed, how many office actions they averaged per application before they got granted, and just figured out that it's an average 1.7 per application. And some basic math tells you then that applicants spend about $2.5 billion US on office actions every year. So for each individual company, that may be manageable as part of the equation, but structurally, that is a big number that can probably be spent elsewhere. So, you know, is there a benefit of being able to reduce that by just 10%? Right? That's a question to be asked. And the final here as well, it's not really related to patentability programs per se, but it's quite an interesting fact, is that 95% of all innovation projects fail. 5% reach the market, which means that, you know, a lot of, well over 2.5 billion, put it that way, is spent on R&D and innovation that is never really effective. And I think access to information in early stages is helpful from that perspective. So if patentability searching is not the only problem, but it's part of the solution, or not the only solution, but part of the solution, I think, why doesn't everyone do it? And some obvious ones. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I'm talking too much about this before we jump into the tool. But adoption is a key thing that I've seen. It's hard to get people to change their behavior and, you know, do things that is not part of their regular job description or something that is outside of what they've been doing before. They need really good reasons to do that, and that's challenging. Time and resources, it takes time to do this properly. It takes time or it takes resources. You hire new people to do it, or you send it out for third party to run the searches for you. Regardless of how you do it, if you want to get the effects of running patentability programs, you need to invest in it, and that's not for everyone. The skill gaps. Patent searching is difficult. Reading patents is difficult for most of us. There's an attitude question that I tend to see as well, which is around, I know everything. I've been in this industry for 20 years and I've seen it all. Don't really have to do this, but I'll just file my patents and then deal with the report when I get it back. And obviously, information overload is is real. We're all struggling with it. The amount of data processed and generated today is a bit overwhelming. So it's all challenges that we're facing and that we need to be aware of if we're trying to do something like this and change behaviors. And the bottom line is searching and reviewing patent data is difficult and time consuming and or costly. So that's just the reality. So what are some of the suggestions then? And this is, again, very quickly from my learnings through interacting with companies that have been trying to do this more systematically, is to really map out and understand when to do this. When is it required? Is every situation equal? Who do we need to be involved? Do we need to do it at every different step? And really figure out what is it that you want to achieve and when do you want to do it. But regardless of how you choose to implement it, it's really important to make it mandatory. It's really important to make it, enforced. And if you ask someone to do it and you make that part of the job description or the remit, they have to do it. But then educate people on why and how they need to do it as well. If they don't get the why, they're not going to be invested in do it. If they don't know the how, they're not going to do it well. So that's really key. Tiering invention goes back to the first point here. Is every invention equal? Do you need to invest as much time into everything? And measure and set clear KPIs for understanding the impact. So those are some of the things that I think, and there's a lot more obviously, but just in very high level, some of the things that are worth sort of thinking about if you're trying to do something like this. And the final one is sort of linking into what it is that we're doing, which is getting the right tools that allow people to do what they're supposed to do without sacrificing their evenings or their time with their kids. So how does IPRally help? Very, very quickly, these are busy slides, but like I said, patentability searching is very intense, right? And any kind of patent searching is very intense. The three main steps, the way that I see the world, you prepare for your searching, then you do the actual search, and then you review it. There's some iteration between them, but those are sort of the clear buckets of what you do. Key thing when you run searches is usually to define what it is you're searching for and understand what the scope of your search is. And traditionally, you have to spend a lot of time understanding, finding meanings of words and synonyms, or how your competitors describe something, or how do you need to truncate things to capture what you want. So it takes a long time to do that. And then when you search, there are a number of different considerations you need to make. You need to iterate in different ways. You need to think about how you limit so that your results become manageable, but not limit it too much so that you miss something that may be relevant. So always this balancing act. And then when you review data and information, it takes time, because you tend to get quite large amounts of data, and you need ways to process it quickly, right? And the way that we do it, and the way that we can help with it, is in each of these steps, there are solutions that IPRally helps to do more efficiently. So you don't have to worry about synonyms, like I said before. You can still review it and think about it, but we're moving beyond that now. We're moving towards sort of a technical description that is capturing the meaning of the technology and the purpose of the technology beyond how it's been described, right? Deciphering an invention disclosure to run a search is a lot quicker now. You will review the data a lot faster. So instead of talking about this, I wanted to see if I can jump into IPRally and see what it looks like. And run a couple of searches. Actually, I was a bit too quick. There was one more slide. I thought we'll run 3 different searches here. So one is sort of the workshop or the early stage ideation searching. How can you do that quickly? Second one is, okay, invention disclosure phase. You're trying to determine, is something you're writing an invention disclosure for viable? Is it patentable, and so on. And the third stage, if we have time, we'll look at how you can, refine your claims essentially in here. So starting with the first one, this is IPRally, what it looks like if you haven't seen it before. I know a lot of you have already, but it's very sleek, easy to use patent searching tool. You have 3 ways of searching. You can search using a graph, which is looks like this. This is the grayed out part here. And that's what we're going to start doing here. Essentially, this is the way you describe anything and search for information in our tool. Like I said, there's no Boolean, there's no keyword searching, anything. You describe it as close to natural language as you can, but in this format, and just type it out as you go. There's a patent number search. You can paste it in, choose what part of the patent you want to search for, and create this graph from, and we will parse it out and run the search for you. Or you can do a free text search and just paste it in as you go. And there are obviously other sections here as well. You can save data, you can share data, you can combine searches and what have you. But today we'll just run some searches. So let's say you want to go into a workshop. You're brainstorming for ideas for certain things, and very quickly you want to just run some searches on the fly. So example, you may have seen this already. We tend to use this every now and then, but there's a seat, and that has a seat portion, and it's got a backrest. I'm just typing it in here. So we're searching for any concept that is a seat comprising of a seat portion or having a backrest, right? Every single chair you've ever seen in your life, more or less, unless it's a stool, then it's not it. So this is the graph. This is a search string, searching for seats, having a seat portion and a backrest. You get your results on the right-hand side very quickly, and you can open up the drawings and see what we're looking at here. So some sort of swing, which it's got a seat, some sort, backrest, seat portion, kind of a seat. It's a joyful chair. A number of different seats, obviously. Pretty useless search. No one's going to argue against that. So actually, let's say you're working for an automotive company and you're looking for vehicle seats, right? You can just modify that and change your search here. Run the search again. And now we're getting to, did I do something wrong here? Oh, actually, never mind that. Let's say we did this. Let's say we added a seat portion needs to be, then have a ventilation system. And that ventilation system is made up of air channels. And it needs to be a vehicle seat. So now we're searching for a vehicle seat that has a seat portion and a backrest. And the seat portion has a ventilation system that comprises of air channels. Run the search. Now we're getting vehicle seats back, ventilated vehicle seats. You can clearly see that we're narrowing in our searching. Definitely ventilated vehicle seats. You can keep building here as well. So let's say that the vehicle seat that is ventilated needs to have a control system, and that control system is channels. Maybe it's got a sensor. Sensor is for detecting typing poorly. Seat portion. you can see that I continued building here just to illustrate how you would describe things. You have a main concept. That main concept has sub-concepts and different features, and they have sub-features. But they're also starting to connect these different parts of this graph that we're searching for here, where you have the word sensor was bolded here because it's referring back to other parts of this graph. The seat portion, the sensor is for detecting temperature in the seat portion, and we're describing seat portion here. So start building this multi-dimensional interconnected way of describing technology that when you run search will hopefully give you relevant results. So now you have vehicle seats with temperature and ventilation control. Number of different versions of that with control systems for it. Sorry, and this is the first time I'm going to complain about all the Zoom drawings, some Zoom windows. So you can very quickly run searches iteratively here and build them out. You can review this data in a very sort of quick and easy way. So one of the things we do is we group patent information or the patent families into one family. We show you the most representative patent, but if you want to see all of them, they're all here. We also rank them by relevancy. And what we mean by relevancy is essentially comparing this graph and these concepts you described here with the patents that we have in our database. So every patent that you have in your results set in our entire database as well will have a corresponding graph that we parsed out. So we're essentially just comparing the way this is described with what's being described in the patent for this patent, or the graph for this patent. And then we're ranking them so that you can start with what is objectively at least the most relevant patent. So if we were to open this up, you can actually view the graph for this patent if you want to. So this is the graph for the patent that you're looking at now. Very comprehensive. It will show you everything is based on the full text in this case, but you can also zoom it in to something that is a bit more like what it is that you're searching for. So regardless of how you view things, you should be able to very quickly in an innovation workshop, run a couple of searches, get something back, and at least be able to knock out any obvious concepts without spending too much time. You can also customize the view here. You can have images or not have images. You can have the abstract or first claim already in the first result. But this is what you would do. If you want to, you can add comments to say that, workshop 1, review later, save. If you want to, you can share that with your colleagues for later. So anything you want to do to review data in here is quite straightforward. So that's how you build a graph. You could just as well, if you go back, run a free text search where you say, vehicle seat having a backrest portion. Same way that you described it, but you can do it in free text. It will do exactly the same thing, because what's happening after you've done this, you would essentially parse out a graph. But I thought it'd be quite interesting. So the second scenario I wanted to show that a lot of our customers are doing, where it usually is very challenging to get this done because the people that are intended to do it are not necessarily capable of running complicated patent searching. But if you imagine being in an invention disclosure stage, you can just type up your invention disclosure in the format that you need to, take out the relevant technical descriptions, paste it into our tool, and we will run the patent search, hopefully with some accuracy. So to illustrate that, I found a dummy invention disclosure online. I just Googled it this morning, and this is what it looks like. It's about some sort of stepping thing for a shovel. But if you start looking at this, the digging aid that he's invented, this guy. You can take this, copy paste it. If I can get into the tool, paste it in here. Let's clean it up a little bit and say it's not my digging, it's digging aid for use with a conventional shovel. Use digging aid is removably attached. Novel features, that's more maybe not descriptive per se. So when you put text in here, it should be descriptive, technical. And let's say, instead of saying it, say digging aid. And there's another it, digging aid. It took us 30 seconds from having that invention disclosure, pasting the technical components into this, and cleaning it up a little bit. So if we run a search on this now, IPRally will essentially parse out and create this graph that you see on the left-hand side. And it may not be perfect. And you can still work with this and clean it up a little bit, depending on how you want to do it. But even if it's not perfect, it will still have enough context. It's a fairly long graph with a lot of information. It will have enough context to find relevant prior art here. But if we spend a little bit of time just looking at what this is, so you have a digging aid, there's a shovel component here that we're talking about, aid. So that aid part is obviously part of the digging aid. So then we can move it up and put it under the digging aid. And then it describes that the aid has a large surface area and so on. So that's probably more logical under the aid part. And these are independent other features that we're talking about, including a foot, which is a nice description because it's got a function in this claim. So if you do that, you can refine these searches. It seemed to be pretty accurate already. So for an inventor, you can start reviewing it immediately. But if they make these changes we just did here, and maybe if we try to identify the novel elements and focus a little bit more on that here, what you can do is I think one of the things is how you attach it to the shovel, which is with a U-bolt. You can then go down and include those things in the filter section. So I said that we don't have any Boolean searching, and this is a filter. It's not going to create a new search. It's filtering, and you can add keywords and IPCs and applicants and so on. But let's say you're focusing on that quickly, U-bolt, and we now move this part as well up there. So if we run the search again, we've now hopefully narrowed it down to tools or things that you put on a shovel that is mounted by a U-bolt. So already looking at these drawings here, you can see that this is pretty spot on. As you can see, like I said previously, everything we do here is designed to make it easier for you to do this, including reviewing the data. So we've indexed all the different part names and put them into the drawings, so you can see that. If it's too busy, too much, you can change it and make it on hover instead, or turn it off entirely. But this sounds like or looks like it's pretty spot on for what we're trying to do and trying to find here. And if you want to go in and look at some of the other things we do to make it easier to review, so you can obviously highlight things. So we searched or sub-searched for the U-bolt, so that's automatically highlighted, but you can add other words as well. So if you were look at the other thing is rubber that's being put on there, you can add that. So that's not filtering the search, but you can add it as a keyword to be highlighted. But one of the cool things that I really like here, given that you have to review a large number of documents, is that we have intelligent highlighting. And that means that our AI, and remember behind this text, there is a graph. And in those different nodes in the graph, you will get different strength signals depending on what you search for. And those nodes in that graph will refer back to the free text in this patent. So what we do is where we get the strongest signals, we will highlight those sections of these patents. So you can very quickly see 3 shades of yellow where you should start looking, and then just keep going through it. You can bring up the drawings as well. You saw this already, and very quickly review the drawings. And then what you can also do very quickly is if you go through this, and the novel element that you are trying to focus on here is the U-bolt. I'm just picking that randomly now, but let's say this patent has a U-bolt mounting. You can mark that with heart symbol. You can then find some other patents that has the same thing. I haven't actually looked through this, but let's just pick a couple and see what happens. So what happens then is you put them in this notepad favorite section that we have up here. So that allows you to go back and review it. But what you can also do is you can go down here and you can retrain the algorithm to focus more on the features that these patents have in common with this description that you had initially here. So mark up the ones that you think are very similar to what you're looking for. It may not be spot on, but they're moving in the right direction. You can mark them up, click zoom to favorites, and then search again. And what's going to happen is that the system is going to iterate for you and find more relevant hits. Hopefully. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm rushing through this a little bit, obviously, because of time, but hopefully it does make sense. And if you can imagine what it looks like trying to, let's run that search again, trying to clear the third aspect that we talked about here, which is, pre-filing claim validation, if you want to call it that. You could essentially just go in and I'm picking one set of claims here. If these were your draft claims, you can put them in here as an attorney, run search. We will parse out this graph that you see here. You will also have the device here, or the description for the device here. So what you can do is you can go in and say, if you take the word, if you say it's not going to be shovel, it's going to be, I don't know, digging aid, for example. Device. And again, I'm just making this up on the fly now, so I don't know if this is going to work. But what happens if you change these words in your text? Click reparse. It will reparse this graph. And this may or may not make any difference, but if you click search patents again, you can then see, okay, what difference does it make if I say call a shovel, essentially. You may find some other results. So in the interest of time, I'm not gonna spend too much more time on that. I'm gonna jump back to my deck very quickly and see if we can make that work. And question is, does it work? Hopefully you saw that it works conceptually. But we also have customers that are telling us that this has a huge impact in real life. So we have a customer in Melexis that's done a case study with us, telling us that we've helped them save 75% of the time they spend on prior art and patentability searching, and in doing so also help them increase the quality of their applications. So that's pretty impactful to get those kind of numbers. And you can see some other quotes there as well. Kongsberg is talking about how we help them, translate difficult legal or technical language in innovation workshops, and the Finnish Patent Office gives you some stats down there as well on what IPRally has done for them. So the question is, what is there to gain from doing this, just to sort of bring everything back together again? we've done some math on the cost of office actions and everything that we talked about in the beginning. But I just wanted to do some basic examples of basic calculations on what the impact could be here. So for the first one, looking at efficiency, I think the EPO is running 180, 190,000 applications every year that they need to examine. If they could save 1 hour by using IPRally or using any other efficiency tool in their examination process, in creating the search string or in classifying the technology, whatever, saving 1 hour, that's the equivalent of 120 full-time employees per year, which is pretty impactful. So it's definitely worth investing and thinking about, you know, what this means and being able to get some efficiency gains in this area. Second example is, and it's a bit more complicated, but we do actually have a calculator for calculating this that we can send to you if you want to afterwards. But we look at the cost per application, how many applications a given company makes a year, what the cost for that is, what the grant ratio is, how many office actions they get back, and then make some assumptions that if you implement a program like this, if you use IPRally, can you expect to save, you know, get 10% less office actions, or if you don't file some of the patents that are eventually rejected. And if you, in this example, if you file 300 applications, you save 225,000 euros per year. And you probably read the third one by now, so I'm not going to talk about that. But that's essentially it. Hope you found this useful. It's difficult just speaking to a computer screen, so and doing it with a timer on the side. But hopefully it makes sense. And I think we have a huge part to play in this, and to sort of level out the playing field and to help everyone be more effective and efficient in doing these kind of things. So if there's anything you have any questions about, or if you have any thoughts or ideas and want to just discuss that, don't hesitate to reach out. And some words of wisdom, and this is usually a quote that I hear about going to the gym or doing some training or workouts, which I don't do, by the way, at least not enough of. But the best patentability search is the one that gets done. It doesn't really matter what tools or methods you use, but you know, if you do something, it's going to be better than doing nothing. And that's my key takeaway. So if you want a copy of the calculator, just ping us. More than happy to share it and walk you through it as well if you want to. But other than that, just want to say thank you and hope you found it useful. And the next session will be in a bit more than probably 6 weeks time. And I think it will focus on opposition work and patentability searching. Not patentability searching, invalidity searching. That's a typo. Excellent. Thank you very much. And any questions we got through the session, we will get back to you and try to answer them at least. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.